Hi. Neptune has shifted into Aries, and for a lot of us, this is creating a sense of urgency, a call to cull things from our lives that aren't serving our empowerment, that are actually feeding our fear. I really think, to put it much more simply, this is just asking us to address those areas in our life where we are still entertaining cowardice. Right? So, take a minute over the next few days, because these energies are going to be around with us for a while, and really look at the ways you're feeling that sense of urgency, that something needs to change and it feels really big. Don't necessarily feed into the urgency. The urgency is trying to tell you how important it is, but it itself does not tell you what that move needs to be. You need to identify what the fear that is actually driving the behavior is, so that you can identify what the courageous step you need to take is that lines you up with your values, the experience that you want to have. You get to choose this. You get to look at this. But I think that there's a lot of this energy coming up, and a lot of people are feeling this pressure, this sense of urgency, this, I need to move. I need to do something. This is not a time for reaction. This is a time for evaluation, discernment, and response. Take time to find out where your values are standing. Where are you in your field of selection and your field of relationship that is not fitting with where you want to be? Where are your values out of alignment? Don't let things push you into reacting and making big decisions without taking that evaluation to step into your body and see what your body is actually telling you. There's a lot of planetary alignments and a lot of solar effects and a lot of other things going on in the universe that are creating a lot of compression within our systems. That is the sense of urgency. There is change coming. We have crossed the threshold. There is a future coming that is going to take us away from the world as we have known it. And we can't go back. And that is bringing up a lot of fear of the unknown and uncertainty. That's the urgency. So find the small ways that you can take steps in courage to address where you're out of alignment with your values. Pause, breathe, reflect, figure out what your body is telling you, and make those moves from a grounded place of clarity. There is a sense of urgency, but you want to make sure that your steps are taken with care for yourself. Because if you're not taking those steps with care for yourself, you're just going to continue to practice further malalignment and struggle. We need to practice this now, before things like what we're seeing on the TV and in the world do land in our vicinities and in our homes. We need to be practicing in our values and how to walk and how to live in our principles, and how to stand in them as we feel is right. Because if and when the events like what we see on TV come to our communities, and they may or may not, but if they do, how are you going to respond to them? Are you going to be shaped by the wave and swept along with the currents to your own destruction? Or are you going to be resolute and courageous in your principles and standing in actions that you know to be right? Because if you aren't principled in your behavior and your choices, you're going to get swept along with tides. And we can all feel the pressure of the world events in our lives in small ways. So look around, but don't make big choices until you know your footing is secure. That sense of urgency wants to make you run before you're ready. Look at what the wound is, Find where you're out of alignment with your values. Breathe and plan your next step. That's all it's asking you to do. It's not even asking you yet to take the action. They're just asking you to find where you might be entertaining lack of courage, right? Because that is not true. If you understood the power of your choice and your ability to align your life with principle and value and how that would reshape your reality, you would understand how powerful you are and you wouldn't struggle with confidence or courage. So take those small practice steps now so that you can get there and see it before there's an active crisis landing at your door and handing it to you without the benefit of training. That's what this is, right? This in-between time when it is something that we see on TV but not out our front door. This is when we train on our principles and our values in our day-to-day behaviors. How am I behaving in alignment with what I believe to be true, good, just, and right for the world in everything? Because when crisis comes to the door, I am going to behave what I practice. And if I am practicing fear in my day-to-day life, when disaster strikes, I'm one of the sheep. And I would rather be one of the wolves, which means I need to be very, very clear on what my values and my principles are. I need to be addressing cowardice in my life, practicing with it, preparing for it, and working on it so that when an act of courage is asked of me, I am ready. And that's where we're at, and that's what I've got today. Thanks.